Let's go.
Let's go. Hello, this is Adrian Shepard from Springtime Nations. I'm here with my friend Thomas, and we're going to discuss another piece of media that has secessionist themes in it. And it's kind of unfortunate that no libertarian, I made sure to search pretty thoroughly, has really done at least a YouTube-based analysis of Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, which is one of the main pieces of media in the current era that really deals with the themes of secession. Thomas, why don't you just let's start at the beginning of the game and what's going on in the world of Elder Scrolls. What's going on in Tamriel, the continent where all the action takes place.
Okay, so the setting, I guess, of the game is that you have Tamriel, which is a continent. I think at least that's how it's referred to. And then the Empire, for most of known time, has controlled the entire continent. But over time, a group of elves, the High Elves, have assembled power and managed to beat out the Empire. The Black Marsh, which is home to Argonians and other territory in the continent, managed to secede. And due to that sort of weakness there, the Empire lost their war with the High Elves, and now the Empire is like sort of beholden to the White Elves with a really gay treaty. And this is where we find ourselves in the game. Oh, and because of that gay treaty, a bunch of regions within the Empire now also want to secede from the Empire. And so far, Hammerfell, which is another region, has like half of their territories have managed to secede. And we find ourselves in the territory of Skyrim, which is currently in a civil war over secession. So it's not looking good for the Empire.
Right, and Morrowind declared independence as well.
Yeah. Although, have they actually been that successful in their secession? I know Black Marsh managed to completely.
Well, yes, Black March. Yeah, now the empire that was once obviously had kept peace between its subservient colonies. Now states are warring with each other for advantage, and Argonia did invade Morrowind and seemed to have been successful in some war goals that they had. It's not really clear if they've gained territory or resources, etc. But that, on top of the explosion of the giant volcano in the middle of Morrowind, has created a bad situation there.
Yeah.
But basically, the Empire also just has no control. In Morrowind, they are quickly losing control over parts of Skyrim, up until the fateful battle that you kind of walked into as the player character.
Yeah. So I don't really like when you look at it all. I don't really see the Empire lasting much longer. Or it's just going to be Cyrodiil, which is their capital territory. But yeah, then so I guess as the player, we're like put in a situation right at the start to side with either the Stormcloths or the Imperials. But the game does this really silly thing because the game tries to portray both sides pretty neutrally, but it fails at that because the game starts with you about to be executed by the Empire, and then a dragon attacks, and then you're supposed to decide between the people who are just about to execute you or the secessionists, the Stormcloths. And I don't think anyone chose the Empire.
Yeah, well, honestly, in the chaos of like, oh, what do I do? Like, I'm sure a lot of people initially may have gone with, was it Rayluff? It was the Imperial, but I mean, you're kind of just sort of just like wandering. So I think a lot of people might have just because like, I don't know,
by accident.
Literally by accident. Yeah, if they were able to like, because your choice is made by like who you're following in the middle of like a giant burning down.
Yeah.
You know, the player character is brought to be executed along with the ringleader of the Stormcloths, and the man that is technically by ancient law already the High King of Skyrim, but that the Empire has chosen not to recognize that, and many loyalist Nords have also.
Well. So I think we should then talk about how he is. Well, you could say he is legally the High King. So basically, how Skyrim works is that you have a bunch of Jarls which control, like, I guess, like counties, like would be the closest thing, and then you have the High King which oversees these Jarls. But a Jarl can challenge the High King to a duel, and if that Jarl wins the duel, that Jarl can call a vote and have everyone vote on who the High King is. And it's not actually exactly clear that like everyone would vote for Ulfric.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's not just the victor gets it. The victor is just calling a new Jarl moot or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, and what's interesting is if you win the entire civil war with Ulfric, right? He's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to claim the throne to myself. I'll call a vote how it's traditionally be, but I'm first going to replace every Jarl that I fought against with my own Jarls, and then we'll call a vote." And then like, "Oh, well, I they all voted for me. How did this happen?" Yeah, so it's not exactly 100% clear, but it is clear that the Empire, when Ulfric challenged the High King to a duel and won, the Empire did not recognize that legally and just said that he murdered the High King. They didn't recognize it as a duel.
Shouted him to death with his voice.
Yes.
All right, yeah. So you escape from the dragon. You go with whoever you picked, most likely the Stormcloak, because yeah, it's like very poorly written that how are you supposed to sympathize with the people who basically, and let's be clear, if you were just like in the wrong place at the wrong time, you were going to be summarily executed as a civilian with no recourse.
And your crime was that you crossed the border without paperwork, and then even when you're about to get executed, they're like, "Oh, we don't even have him on the books. What should we do?" And they're like,
"Yeah, just kill him."
Yeah, just kill him.
Yeah. Empire's not doing itself a lot of favors, messing with the chosen one, who you are in the game.
Yeah.
That's a slightly less relevance to our point, but yeah, it's worth noting that like the Dragonborn, it's a legendary figure in Skyrim lore, is about to be executed by the Empire. So
Yeah.
once you escape, you can make your choice who to join. I actually think it is interesting. There's two main ways to go about this quest, which is either taking back Skyrim for the Empire or taking it for the Stormcloths, and you're going hold by hold. Each province replacing the Jarl, fighting battles, taking resources, etc., until finally, you get to the capital. But
Of either the capital of either faction.
yes, but the third outcome is worth thinking about, because you can broker a truce, and it's engineered by your by the kind of like the what do you call it, like the graybeards. I don't, how do you describe, they're like these monks, that religious devotion to Akatosh, which is a major god in the universe, and there's this peace treaty, and basically what you can do for the peace treaty is grant holds to either faction, And in a way, I think that's an interesting way of thinking about like a different form of secession, not like all Skyrim all becomes Imperial or all becomes Stormcloak, right? You have like half and half or 3/4 and a quarter, at least until the Dragon Crisis is finished, and then I guess they can get back to killing each other. But you know,
yeah, that's I guess the issue is it's like the most temporary like truce that's like not genuine at all, really.
I mean, it depends on
so,
if the player character wants to be a thief for a little while, and then they can finish the Dragon Quest.
yeah,
But
so I guess the issue with the truce is that it's very obvious that both sides like don't really care for it, and it's only possible because there's this third threat, the dragons, and then we all know as soon as the dragon crisis goes away, they're going to most definitely get back to killing each other. So I don't really call it. I guess it's a truce, but it's not really a truce. Like because I always sort of envision truces as like it's like genuine or like relatively genuine.
right, it's a ceasefire. I think that's a better way
Yeah,
of
yeah.
calling it. Now, okay, so we've talked about the two, the Empire can maintain control, and then the Cyrodiilic Empire, the Empire of the Septums would remain the human provinces of Cyrodiil, the capital, Skyrim, full of Nords, and High Rock, full of Bretons. Now, the Bretons are an interesting problem specifically for Skyrim because while the vast majority of Skyrim is Nord majority by hold, Bretons make up a plurality of people in the Reach, which is a western hold, the westmost hold, and people there do not like Nord rule, and in fact, many have formed a group called the Forsworn, and the Forsworn are also they're returning to kind of their old gods or old ways. There's kind of more of a primal magical nature worship going on, and they're violently fighting both the Stormcloaks and the Imperials when they get close. And I think the Forsworn are an interesting example because they want secession from Skyrim. Now it's hard to know whether they want to become part of High Rock or they want to be an independent kingdom or tribal confederation or some kind. They don't seem to be that organized politically in that way, but one thing's for certain, they don't like the Nords ruling there. And Ulfric Stormcloak, the leader of the Stormcloaks, is well known to have used brutal tactics to fight them. I don't know. Do you have any?
So when you get to Markarth or as part of the Forsworn conspiracy, they're actually holding the leader of the Forsworn in a mining slave camp, like underground. So, but yeah, I did want to bring this up in the call is that Ulfric supporting the secessionists, or I guess supporting either side, really probably means that the Forsworn are going to get crushed. So yeah, and interesting about that is there's also the Whiterun issue of there's this one whole Whiterun that doesn't want to side with either side of war, they just want to stay neutral, and regardless of whether you play as Stormcloak or Imperial, you'll reach a mission on either side that involves forcing through the threat of violence or through violence Whiterun to like side with your side.
Yeah, in a way, a lot like Kentucky's position during the outbreak of the Civil War.
Yeah. So like the Stormcloaks aren't saints, And I guess there's also I know this is like because the Stormcloths have this like reputation of being like the Nordic nationalists. We can also go back and look at Nord history and see, you know, like if you talk to the companions, like warrior faction in the game, and they tell you the history of the Nords, and the history of the Nords is, you know, they conquered like a lot of land. I'll get out the Tamriel map. But they conquered land outside of Skyrim. I think they conquered like East Morrowind, parts of High Rock. So it would be interesting to think about like, okay, if the Stormcloths do gain control of the entirety of Skyrim, are they just going to, and then you have this other empire that's falling to pieces? Do you think they're going to start expanding on these other places, or what?
Well, certainly there would be an interest in getting, for example, places with a Nord majority or plurality. You know, you think of Bruma,
Like Bruma,
Cyrodiil.
yeah.
You could take what is that island? The one from the Dragonborn expansion.
Soulspan.
Solstein for historical reasons, and also be like, oh, there's still Nords there, so we're actually gonna take that. Thank you very much. And then maybe also general conquest to secure strategic positions or whatever. I mean, the Tiber Septim was a Nord. He was, I believe he was the one that eventually conquered all of Tamriel, under the Cyrodiilic Empire.
Yeah.
And then ascended to godhood as part of the imperial cult.
And there's also like, just to be like the anti-Nord again here, there's also like, I think Bredens, like probably forsworn nationalists, no matter what, is gonna get like the rope. But like I think just generally Bredens would do better under the Empire than under like Skyrim nationalism.
Right. There's the general understanding that just about all the races, save it seems like the Khajiit and Arconians, save the Beast Folk, that basically everyone would benefit from the cosmopolitan empire, and then the Nords would benefit at everyone's expense under the Stormcloaks. Although, I mean, there is kind of like, that third beast folk / mer race that it would sort of be fine in any case, right? Which is the orcs, the Orsimer.
Oh yes,
Because
yes.
they have a very interesting position, that a very old tradition of their strongholds, which are basically under their like total autonomy of the stronghold. I forget what they're called, but the leader, the chief.
Yep.
And that orcs kind of have an alternative citizenship. They're not citizens necessarily of the empire or of any one province. All orcs by blood have citizenship in the hold, which I think is kind of, it's also an interesting situation in the context of like secession and alternative like political ideas, right? Like that your citizenship not based on a geography, but kind of like a network of communities that you will always be welcome in.
Yeah, that's pretty nationalist, I guess. But they're not really.
It's very Hoppian, right? It's a covenant community. It's decentralist.
Do you think like, so I guess the issue with the strongholds is in the game, like they're just sort of very small, and it's like 5 people in a camp, and it's like it's hard to take them as anything more than like just like a bandit camp or like a giant camp or something like that. But you're saying the lore actually says that they should have been depicted as more than that? Or?
Well, okay, if you talk to the people in the strongholds, there's the implication that they're specifically set up to be self-sufficient. And also, because they're almost always, I think all of them are based around a mine, right? And mostly ebony. They have very lucrative export. They're well defended. They have crops and animals. And yeah, they're supposed to be sort of like, I'm struggling to think of a less politically charged an example, but if you think of like the settlements in the West Bank in Israel, it's basically like a garrison civilization. They're supposed to kind of be like among wolves.
Yeah, but are you saying they don't pay taxes to the Jarl of the Hold? Or?
As far as, I mean, they might pay tribute. I'm not sure. However, the Hold has no political authority there. There's the law is the Orc law.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So yeah, I would assume they pay like some sort of tribute. Essentially,
maybe an ebony.
There's no way a Jarl is gonna let like a bunch of people set up a camp and like mine like their most like resourceful mine without some sort of tribute. So, but they are like independent in terms of like there's no one shoving Nord culture down their throat, or they don't have to abide by any of the Nord laws or the Imperial laws. I guess I've been side skirting the main thing though is the Thalmor, and so this is where nearly all the arguments about the Civil War come to. It's like, okay, so it's not really about who wins like this Civil War, it's about how we can construct like the regions in the land or like the political landscape to best beat the oppressive Thalmor, because they're the true threat. Like they're the ones who are like basically, I mean, they're essentially made out to be Nazis kind of thing. They're high elf supremacists, hold all the other races as like basically inferior slave races, do their bidding. And they force like very tyrannical laws about religion on everyone. So, part of the truce agreement that the Empire had to agree to end their war with the Thalmor, which is called the White Gold Concordat, I think, is that certain gods are just banned. You're not allowed to pray to them. Well, one in particular, Talents. So, do you buy the argument that they side with the Empire against the Secessionists because they will be better at beating the Thalmor in the next Thalmor war?
Yeah, this is the essential question that you basically have to think of, because you're presented with these Thalmor that are like obviously bad and evil. Like there's no ambiguity. Like if you're like an Empire appreciator, you hate the Thalmor, and if you're a Nord fan, you hate the Thalmor. So we have some examples that we can turn to in the game and in the game's lore. One, the Empire lost against the Thalmor, against the Aldmeri Dominion, which they serve. The United Empire, or what remained of it when the three southern provinces broke off, Valenwood, Somerset Isle, and Argonia. Oh no, and elsewhere. Argonia is independent. But these three southernmost provinces became the Aldmeri Dominion and attacked, and the rest, somewhat United Empire, failed. Now, one province did not fail, High Rock, which is still currently fighting the Aldmeri Dominion and doing quite well at it. So there's some evidence that maybe what the Empire was, how it was conducting the war was bad. Maybe it's just bad luck, and High Rock got lucky. But if a independent Skyrim were attacked, they certainly could ally with the fellow human Redguards against the Aldmeri threat, and that might even turn the tide in the rest of Hammerfell and drive all Aldmeri forces out of there. And you can
another argument sort of similar to the allyship if the Stormcloths were in control of Skyrim is they would Patrician on YouTube, the guy who does the big Skyrim analysis videos, seems to think so. They would almost definitely ally with the Empire, like the remnants of the Empire, which would just be Cyrodiil basically at that point. So yeah.
Right. So, and there's also the other elephant in the room in regards to this infamous document that claims, or that people say claims, that the Stormcloak movement is basically a Thalmor plot to weaken the Empire. Now, if you actually read the document, it's clear. Well, I mean, people will read that the Thalmor consider Ulfric Stormcloak a quote-unquote asset, and they will assume that that means that he is an agent working for the Thalmor secretly to weaken the Empire. But asset really just means that the Thalmor think he's useful to causing disunity in the Empire. But that's no guarantee that they're actually right about this. It very well
they actually say at the end of the document, a Stormcloak victory is also to be avoided.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yes, of course, the best case scenario would be they fight until the last Nord and the last Imperial. But yeah, and the document also says there has been no contact with the asset, and it's not advised. So it's pretty clear that Ulfric is acting on its own beliefs and not part of a shady conspiracy, which many people have slandered the Stormcloak cause by saying that it's a Thalmor plot.
Yeah, so we can just throw that out immediately. When I was thinking about it, that sort of reminds me of Byron on Twitter complaining about how some libertarians hate Ukraine a lot because NATO sees Ukraine as an asset against Russia, and it's okay, are we going to hate South Korea when if NATO sees them as an asset against North Korea? And I thought that was so funny, the similarity there. And I think it would have been more funny because the only real Nords in Skyrim that oppose the Stormcloaks are usually due on the grounds of, it's too nationalist and I like being part of the Empire. But it would have been very funny if there's a group of Nords who are actually they're controlled opposition by the Thalmor, and they're not based.
Yeah, that would be funny. Yeah, although the vibe you get from the pro-Empire Nords is often they seem to be economically better off than the Stormcloak supporters, which makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, it would have been funny if there's just a group of Nords who sit all day posting mail on the forums to each other. On the mail forums to each other about how the Stormcloaks are actually he's controlled by Thalmor.
He's actually a Penitus Oculatus agent.
Yeah. Okay, so we don't really have that much belief that the Empire versus which they claim is the only way of stopping the Thalmor versus a bunch of independent realms stopping the Thalmor. We don't really take the Empire's claims that they're so much better. But then I guess we just have to weigh that up against okay, but the Stormcloaks are probably going to oppress the Bretons way more hard than Skyrim.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of the same kind of thing that's you can support Scottish secession, and then once that's done, you can support Orkney or Western Isles secession, right? First,
Yep.
Skyrim becomes independent, and then let's say as the player character like continues to exist or whatever, you could theoretically side with the Forsworn. The Forsworn, the campaign unfortunately is very underdeveloped. The conspiracy should have been part of like a whole nest of side quests where, you may be able to join the Forsworn, be initiated into their like rights or whatever.
Yeah, all you can do is help get the leader out of prison, and then he's just like, oh well, so me and like the 5 other Forsworn like that I'm with will be friendly to you, but all other Forsworn like enemies on the map will still be enemies because like we can't be bothered changing the AI. Sorry.
I mean, yeah. Oh yeah, like just to have that as dialogue.
Yeah.
I mean, man, I just wanted to become a Briarheart. They seem pretty badass. Yeah, I don't know. Any Yep.
Do you see any similarities to real world Civil Wars, Secession, wars, etc., etc.? Like,
Oh, sure. I mean, the Russian Civil War is a great example because you have those two big factions, the whites and the reds. But there's all kinds of like nationalist movements in the Caucasus and Central Asia. You have an anarchist movement, right, in Ukraine. There's all kinds of things going on exactly at the same time. And of course, the successful breakaway states in the Baltics and Finland. Yeah.
so who would you say is the Thalmor?
Oh, maybe you could think about it as, the Allied interventions, right, to help the white armies, America, Japan, Britain, France, going in and trying to help the whites.
Yeah, I think that because the Thalmor are what make the war, I guess, a bit more unique than this Empire versus Rebels. But also that grayness of how the Stormcloths aren't like earthly saints. They're going to, I mean, yeah, it still needs to be considered that many like holds like he has to conquer and then replace with Jarls, with his own Jarls to get them to vote for him, like to kill Hake.
Right. It's sort of like, okay, so like I think most viewers of this will be sympathetic to anyone fighting the communists. But it's worth noting that the White Army was pretty brutal, especially, for example, to the Jewish populations of the areas that they took over. The vast majority of pogroms, not all, but the vast majority were undertaken by the White Army. So in the same way that, it's like, if the Stormcloaks win, that'll be good for Nords, but very bad for Bretons. It's like the White Army it would be good for Russians, but a lot worse for Jews.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered all the major stuff. Skyrim's it's a great game. Could be a lot better if they took the lore seriously, or a little more seriously. But even so, I mean, it really is one of the only games in town for a major game, or even major like media anywhere, that's really kind of examining like a secessionist Civil War scenario.
Yeah.
I think we'll leave it there. Thomas, thank you for your time. This has been Thomas and Adrian Shepard talking Elder Scrolls for Springtime Nations. May 1,000 flowers bloom.